He was the best hitman in Seoul. Cold, efficient, never failed a contract. For 6 months, he hunted the woman who stole $50 million from the Korean mob, tracked her across 3 continents. Finally, found her hiding in a remote village in Tanzania. He kicked down the door, gun drawn, ready to end this. And found her nursing a baby. His baby. The child he never knew existed, the woman he thought he'd never see again. The truth that would destroy everything he thought he knew about that one night 2 years ago. Sometimes the person you're paid to kill is the person you should have protected all along. Comment, "I'm ready," if you're ready for this impossible choice. His name is Kang Min-ho, is Seoul's most elite hitman, former special forces, expert tracker, fluent in 6 languages. For 6 months, he's been hunting Loon Sarah, who stole $50 million from the Baek crime family. His search finally leads him to a remote village in Tanzania. Tonight, he'll end this hunt. Tonight, he'll complete the contract. Tonight, everything he thinks he knows about his life will shatter. Not targets, not details, not the small tells that gave away a liar or a thief or someone about to run. In the world of private security and problem-solving for Seoul's elite, Min-ho's reputation was ironclad. Former Korean Special Forces, expert marksman, fluent in 6 languages. A man who could track anyone, anywhere, and complete any contract without hesitation. He didn't ask questions about innocence or guilt. That wasn't his job. His job was simple. Find the target, complete the mission, collect the payment, move on. So when the Baek family, one of Seoul's most powerful crime syndicates, came to him 6 months ago with a contract, he'd listened with his usual professional detachment. Her name is Yoon Sarah, Director Baek had said, sliding a photograph across the mahogany desk. 28 years old, former finance analyst for our organization. 3 weeks ago, she disappeared with $50 million from our offshore accounts. Min-ho had studied the photograph. A woman with sharp, intelligent eyes, high cheekbones, hair pulled back in a severe bun. The kind of beautiful that came with warning signs. Smart enough to be dangerous, desperate enough to be reckless. She's good with computers, Baek continued. Covered her tracks well, changed her identity, used cryptocurrency, bounced through a dozen countries. But everyone makes mistakes eventually. We need you to find her, recover the money, and eliminate the problem. Eliminate, the polite word for kill. Min-ho had named his price, substantial, even by his standards. Baek hadn't blinked. One more thing, Baek had added. 2 years ago, Sarah worked at one of our legitimate fronts, a tech consulting firm. There was an incident at a company event. She filed a complaint against one of our executives for assault. We made the complaint disappear, but she became difficult after that. Started asking questions about our business. We should have dealt with her then. Translation, she'd learned too much about their illegal operations and had to be silenced. Min-ho had taken the contract without a second thought. That was 6 months ago. The hunt had been challenging. Min-ho had to give Sarah credit for that. She'd used every trick in the book. False identities, burner phones, cash transactions. She'd moved through Bangkok, Mumbai, Cairo, never staying more than 2 weeks in any location. Always one step ahead. But Min-ho was patient, and he was better. He tracked her digital footprint, the tiny mistakes everyone made. A VPN that dropped for 3 seconds in Mumbai, a phone call to a Korean number that pinged a cell tower, a cryptocurrency transaction that originated from an IP address in Tanzania. Tanzania, East Africa, about as far from Seoul as you could get. It had taken him 2 weeks to narrow down her location. A small village called Mafia in the southern highlands, population less than 5,000, remote, off the grid, the kind of place you went when you wanted to disappear forever. Min-ho had arrived 3 days ago, watched, waited, confirmed. She was living in a small house on the edge of the village. Simple, 1-story, corrugated metal roof, a small garden. Locals knew her as Sarah, a foreign aid worker helping with a school construction project. Smart, use a version of her real name, hide in plain sight by pretending to be a humanitarian. Minho had observed her routine. She left the house every morning at 8, walked to the village center, worked at the school site until noon, then returned home. In the evenings, she stayed inside, lights out by 9. Predictable. That was her fatal mistake. Tonight, he'd end this. Minho waited until midnight. The village was silent except for the sound of insects and the distant bark of a dog. No streetlights, no security cameras, just darkness and the kind of quiet you only found this far from civilization. Minho approached the house from the back, moving like a shadow. He'd already checked. No alarms, no dogs, no security measures. Sarah gotten comfortable, thought she was safe this far from Seoul. Nobody was really safe. Minho picked the back door lock in under 30 seconds, slipped inside. The house was dark, but his eyes adjusted quickly. Small kitchen, living room with minimal furniture, everything neat, organized. The home of someone who traveled light and didn't put down roots. He moved through the rooms silently, gun drawn, every sense on high alert. One bedroom, door closed. This was it. Minho's hand went to the door handle. He knew exactly how it would go. Open the door, confirm the target, 2 shots, quick, clean, professional, collect whatever information he could about the money's location, disappear before morning. He turned the door. The door was locked from the inside. Interesting. Paranoid, even here. Minho took 2 steps back and kicked. The door exploded inward with a crack of splintering wood. Minho swept into the room, gun raised, finger on the trigger. And froze. Sarah was sitting in a chair by the window, illuminated by moonlight. She wasn't sleeping, wasn't running, wasn't reaching for a weapon. She was holding a baby. A tiny infant, maybe 3 or 4 months old, wrapped in a light blanket. The baby was nursing, making small, contented sounds. Sarah looked up at Minho. No fear in her eyes, just exhaustion and something that looked almost like relief. "Hello, Minho," she said quietly in Korean, her voice hoarse. "I was wondering when you'd find me." Minho's gun didn't waver, but his mind was racing. A baby. She had a baby. This complicated things. He didn't kill children, had a firm line about that, but a baby in the room made everything messier. "Where's the money?" he asked, his voice flat, professional. "Gone," Sarah said. "Most of it, anyway. I used it for something more important. The Back family wants their $50 million back, and they want you dead." "I know." She adjusted the baby gently, and Minho noticed how naturally she moved, how carefully she protected the small head. "I knew the moment I took it. I knew they'd send someone. I knew it would probably be you." That last part caught him off guard. "You know who I am?" Sarah's laugh was bitter and tired. "Of course I know who you are. Did you really think I wouldn't remember? Seoul, 2 years ago, the Grand Hyatt, your company's Christmas party." Minho's blood went cold. No, that wasn't possible. "The woman at the bar," Sarah continued, her voice softer now. "The one you spent the night with. The one you never saw again because you were deployed to Japan the next day and stayed there for 8 months. The one you probably barely remember." Minho's mind flashed back. 2 years ago, December, his security company had held their annual party at the Grand Hyatt. He'd gone reluctantly, hated social events, but his business partner had insisted. There'd been a woman at the bar, beautiful, sharp suit, drinking whiskey. They talked for hours, about nothing and everything. She'd been funny, intelligent, had this way of seeing through his carefully maintained walls. He'd felt something he rarely felt, connection. They'd gone to his room, spent the night together. It had been intense, real, the kind of night that made you think about changing your life. And then he'd gotten the call at dawn, emergency deployment to Tokyo. He'd left while she was still sleeping, scrawled his number on hotel stationery, told himself he'd call her when he got back. But when he'd returned 8 months later, he couldn't remember her name, couldn't find the hotel stationery, couldn't track down the woman who'd made him feel human for the first time in years. Eventually, he'd convinced himself it didn't matter. It had been one night, nothing more. "You worked for the Back family," Minho said slowly, pieces clicking into place. "I was their finance analyst," Sarah confirmed. "That party was for all their legitimate businesses. I saw you there, recognized you from photos. Kang Minho, the legendary problem solver, the ghost who disappeared people." She met his eyes directly. "I knew what you were. I knew you worked for the same monsters I worked for, and I didn't care. For one night, I wanted to be someone else, someone who didn't know what the Back family really did, someone who could spend a night with a man and pretend it was just normal." The baby made a small sound, and Sarah automatically patted its back, soothing. "And then you left. No goodbye, just a note with a phone number. I tried to call once, 2 months later, but the number was disconnected. By then, I knew I was pregnant, knew I couldn't tell you, knew you'd never believe the baby was yours anyway." Minho's world was tilting. "That's your daughter," Sarah interrupted. "Her name is Gina. She's 4 months old. She has your eyes and my stubbornness. And before you ask, yes, I'm certain. You're the only person I've been with in 3 years." Minho stared at the baby, at Sarah, at this impossible situation. "You stole $50 million, Minho said, but his voice lacked conviction now. "I took what I needed to disappear," Sarah corrected. "The Back family doesn't just run illegal businesses, Minho. They traffic people, children. I found the records, shipping manifests disguised as electronics, payment ledgers hidden in the legitimate accounts. When I tried to report it, when I tried to get evidence to the police, they threatened me, told me I'd disappear like the complaint I'd filed about their executive had disappeared." Her voice shook with controlled fury. "So I took their money and I ran. I used it to get as far away as possible, to build a life where my daughter wouldn't grow up knowing her mother worked for monsters, where she'd be safe. The Back family will never stop looking. You know that." "I know." Sarah's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "That's why I'm glad it's you they sent. Because you have a choice now, Minho. You can complete your contract, kill me, take Gina back to Seoul to become another orphan in their system, another child they can exploit, or you can let me go. Tell them I couldn't find me, that the trail went cold. Walk away and forget you ever saw us." Minho's gun felt heavy in his hand. "They'll know I'm lying. They'll send someone else." "Then kill me fast," Sarah said quietly. "Make sure Gina doesn't see. The village elder, Mrs. Kamara, she'll take care of her. She's a good woman. Gina will be safe here. You're asking me to choose between murdering you and losing my reputation, my career, possibly my life when the Back family figures out I lied to them. I'm asking you to meet your daughter before you decide." She stood slowly, carefully, and walked toward him. Minho's gun tracked her movement, but he didn't pull the trigger. Sarah stopped 3 feet away and gently turned the baby so Minho could see her face. The infant was sleeping now, tiny fists curled against Sarah's chest, delicate features, a small button nose, and eyes, just barely visible beneath translucent eyelids, that were shaped exactly like Minho's, the same almond shape, the same wide set. "Gina," Sarah said softly. "It means truth in Korean, because she's the truth of what happened that night, the truth I couldn't tell you, the truth that changed everything." "I know. And if they find out I lied, they'll kill me too, slowly, as a message to anyone else who might think about betraying them." "I know," Sarah repeated, her voice breaking. "I know what I'm asking. I know what's impossible, but I'm asking anyway because she's your daughter and she deserves a chance." Minho looked between Sarah and the crib, at this woman who'd stolen millions and fled across the world, at this baby who'd been born into a life of hiding and fear, at this impossible situation that had no good answers. "If I walk away," he said slowly, "if I lie to the Beck family and tell them the trail went cold, they will send someone else, probably within a month, someone who won't care about collateral damage, who will burn this entire village if they have to." Sarah's face went pale. Then what are you saying? I'm saying running isn't enough anymore. You can't stay here. Gina can't grow up in hiding, waiting for the next assassin to kick down the door. Then what do I do? Minho made the choice, the one he'd known he was going to make from the moment he saw Gina's face, the one that would probably get him killed, but was the only one he could live with. You disappear for real, he said. I'll tell the Beck family you're dead, give them proof, a body, DNA evidence, something concrete enough that they stop looking. But I'm not dead. No, but they'll think you are, and you'll never use the name Yoon Sarah again, never contact anyone from your old life. You'll become someone else completely. Sarah stood up, hope and fear warring on her face. And Gina? Minho looked at the crib again, at his daughter, the child he'd never planned for, never expected, never wanted. The child he apparently couldn't walk away from. Gina comes with me. Sarah's reaction was immediate and visceral. No, absolutely not. You're not taking my daughter. Our daughter, Minho corrected. And I'm not taking her from you. I'm saying you both come with me. We stage your death, we create a new identity for you, and we disappear together. We? Sarah stared at him. You're going to run? You? Kang Min-ho, the legendary hitman who never fails a contract? You're going to throw away your entire life for my daughter, Min-ho finished. Yes, because you're right. I have a choice. Complete the contract or protect Gina, and I'm choosing Gina. He moved closer to Sarah, his voice low and intense. But understand this, I'm not doing this for you. I'm not forgiving you for stealing or lying or putting my child in danger by running. I'm doing this because that baby in the crib is mine, and I don't abandon what's mine. How? Sarah demanded. How do we stage my death convincingly enough that the Beck family stops hunting? I know how they verify kills. I know what evidence they need. I can give them DNA that matches yours. I can create a crime scene that tells the right story. I can make them believe you're dead. And then what? And then we run. We use the money you stole to create new identities. We go somewhere the Beck family has no presence, somewhere we can build a life. Sarah searched his face. You're serious. You're actually willing to do this. I don't say things I don't mean. But you don't know me. You don't know anything about me except one night 2 years ago and the fact that I stole from your employer. I know you're Gina's mother. I know you ran across the world to protect her. I know you chose her over everything else. That's enough. And what happens when the Beck family finds out you lied, when they come after you? Then I deal with it. I've been dealing with dangerous people my entire life. The difference is, now I have something worth protecting. He walked to the crib and carefully, awkwardly, lifted Gina into his arms. The baby woke, blinking up at him with those serious eyes. She was warm and light and impossibly fragile. Something shifted in Minho's chest, something fundamental and terrifying and irreversible. I'll protect her, he said quietly, looking down at Gina. Whatever it takes, from the Beck family, from anyone who tries to hurt her, even from you if I have to. He looked up at Sarah. But I'm giving you a choice too. You can come with us, help me protect her, be her mother, or you can disappear on your own and I'll take Gina somewhere safe without you. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. That's not a choice. Yes, it is, because I'm not forcing you. I'm offering you a way out that doesn't end you dead and Gina alone. But you have to trust me. I don't trust you. Then trust that I'll do what's best for Gina. Because unlike the Beck family, unlike the world that created both of us, I actually give a damn about protecting something innocent. Gina made a small sound and reached up, her tiny hand closing around Minho's finger with surprising strength. He looked down at her, at this tiny human who'd appeared in his life like a grenade in his carefully constructed world, and realized he'd already lost this war. Whatever it took, whatever it cost, he'd protect her. Okay, Sarah whispered. Okay, we do this together, but Minho, what?
If you're lying to me, if this is some kind of trick to get me to tell you where the money is, I will fight you with everything I have. I will destroy you. Understand? Minho looked at her and saw not the thief or the target, but a mother, fierce and terrified and willing to burn the world for her child. I understand. Now pack, we leave before sunrise. The hitman who never fails just betrayed the most dangerous crime family in Seoul for a baby he met 5 minutes ago, for a woman he spent one night with 2 years ago. Comment Team Minho if you're obsessed with this dangerous dad energy.
Comment impossible if you think they'll never pull this off. Share with friends who need morally gray characters protecting babies. Hit subscribe because what happens next is the most intense yet. Minho has hours to stage a convincing crime scene, get Sarah and Gina out of Tanzania, and create new identities for all three of them. The staging had to be perfect. Minho spent 2 hours creating the crime scene while Sarah and Gina hid in the village elder's house, waiting. He started with blood, animal blood from the local market, mixed with the right chemical compounds to match human hemoglobin, enough to suggest a violent struggle. He splattered it across the bedroom floor, the walls, the doorframe, made it look like someone had fought hard before dying. Next, he collected DNA samples, hair from Sarah's brush, skin cells from her pillowcase. He'd send these to the Beck family's verification lab along with his report, and they'd confirm the DNA matched their target. Then he photographed everything: the broken door, the blood-spattered room, an empty crib, suggesting a child had been there but was gone now, implying Sarah had been hiding with a baby, which matched intelligence reports. He even fired 3 rounds from his gun into the wall at angles that suggested a close-quarters execution. The story the scene told was simple. Minho had tracked Sarah to Tanzania, there'd been a confrontation, she'd fought, she'd lost, he'd disposed of the body, burned it, which would explain why he couldn't provide physical remains, only DNA evidence. The Beck family would buy it because Minho had never failed a contract before, because he had no reason to lie, because they trusted him. That trust was about to cost them everything. By dawn, they were in a car heading to Dar es Salaam, a battered Land Cruiser Minho had purchased from a local farmer for 3 times its worth, no questions asked. Sarah sat in the back with Gina, who was remarkably quiet for a 4-month-old traveling on rough roads. Minho drove, his mind cataloging everything that could go wrong. The Beck family could get suspicious, could send someone to verify, could run tests that revealed the blood wasn't human enough, or the DNA was contaminated, could find witnesses in the village who'd seen 2 people leaving, not 1. Or worse, they could believe the kill but discover later that Minho had taken money from their target's stolen funds, that he'd created new identities, that he'd betrayed them. In that case, he was a dead man. "You're thinking about all the ways this could fail," Sarah said from the back seat. "Yes." "Want to share?" "No." "Because it'll scare me?" "Because it won't change anything," Minho said. "We're committed now. Either we pull this off or we don't." Gina made a fussy sound, and Minho heard Sarah adjusting the baby, probably nursing her. It was strange hearing these domestic sounds in the middle of what was essentially a high-stakes con job. "When we get to Dar es Salaam, what's the plan?" Minho said. "We meet my contact, get the new documents, then we fly to Johannesburg. South Africa? The Beck family has no presence there, no connections, no way to track us. It's one of the few places in the world we can disappear. And then? And then we build a life. You find work that doesn't involve criminal organizations, I do the same. We raise Gina somewhere she's safe." You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Minho glanced in the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of Sarah with Gina. "But it's what we're going to do." They drove in silence for a while, the landscape changing from rural villages to small towns to eventually the outskirts of Dar es Salaam, a sprawling, chaotic city of 5 million people where it was easy to disappear. Minho's contact lived in the Kariako district, in a 4th-floor apartment above a fabric store. Ahmed was a genius with documents, a former Tanzanian intelligence officer who'd gone private and now serves clients who needed to vanish. "Wait in the car," Minho told Sarah when they arrived. "Lock the doors. If anything feels wrong, drive away. Don't wait for me." "And go where?" "Anywhere. You still have some of the money?" Sarah nodded.
Then use it. Get to Johannesburg on your own. I'll find you. How? I found you once already, Minho pointed out. I can do it again. He got out before Sarah could argue and headed into the building. Ahmed was waiting with the documents. 2 passports, birth certificates, financial records, everything they'd need. Michael Park, Ahmed said, handing Minho a South African passport. Born in Cape Town, software engineer, clean record. Minho studied the passport. The photo was him, but different. Hairstyle differently, glasses he didn't usually wear. The work was perfect. And the woman? Sarah Park, Ahmed said, producing another passport. Your wife, also born in Cape Town, teacher. You married 3 years ago, very respectable. And the child? Jenny Park, born 4 months ago in Cape Town, daughter of Michael and Sarah. All the paperwork is legitimate. Hospital records, birth certificate, even medical records.
Minho examined everything carefully. The documents were flawless. With these, they could cross borders, open bank accounts, rent apartments. They could become real people. Good work, Minho said, handing over a thick envelope of cash. One more thing. I need you to send something to Seoul. He gave Ahmed the crime scene photos, the DNA samples, and a typed report. This goes to Director Beck at this address. Make sure it's delivered by courier, untraceable. Ahmed nodded. Consider it done. Minho left the building and returned to the car, where Sarah was trying to soothe the fussy Gina. We're good, he said, sliding into the driver's seat. We fly out tomorrow morning. Until then, we stay at a hotel. Cash payment, no names. He handed Sarah her new passport. She stared at it. Sarah Park. Teacher. You have a degree in finance. Teaching's not a stretch. And we're married? On paper, it's more convincing. Married couple with a baby attracts less attention than 2 single people traveling together. Sarah studied the passport photo, her face but subtly altered with makeup and styling. You thought of everything. I always do. The hotel was cheap and anonymous, the kind of place that catered to budget travelers and didn't ask questions. 1 room with 2 beds, a small bathroom, no amenities. Minho set up a security perimeter while Sarah changed Gina's diaper and tried to get her to sleep. She's overtired, Sarah said, rocking the fussy baby. Too much stimulation today. Too many changes. Can you settle her? I'm trying, but she's... Give her to me, Minho said. Sarah looked skeptical, but handed Gina over. The baby immediately started crying harder. Minho held her awkwardly, feeling completely out of his depth. He'd faced down enemy soldiers, survived interrogations, killed men with his bare hands. But a crying baby was somehow more terrifying than all of that combined. Walk with her, Sarah suggested. Babies like movement. Minho paced the small room, bouncing Gina gently. The crying didn't stop. Try talking to her, Sarah said. Your voice is deep. It might soothe her. What do I say? Anything. Tell her a story. Minho felt ridiculous, but he started talking in Korean, keeping his voice low and steady. Once there was a man who thought he knew what his life would be. He thought he'd do his job, collect his money, and die alone. He thought that was enough. He thought he didn't need anything else. Gina's crying quieted slightly. But then a woman appeared, just for 1 night, and that night changed everything, even though he didn't know it at the time. And then years later, he found out that night had created something, someone, a tiny person who was half him and half that woman. And suddenly, everything he thought he knew was wrong. Gina's eyes were closing now, her body relaxing against his chest. And that man had a choice to make. Keep being what he was or become something new, something he didn't know how to be. A father, a protector, someone responsible for this tiny, fragile life. Gina's breathing evened out. She was asleep. Minho looked up to find Sarah watching him with an unreadable expression. You're good at that, she said quietly. At what? Being her father. I held her and talked. That's not being a father. Yes, Sarah said. It is. That night, while Sarah and Gina slept in one bed, Minho sat by the window watching the street below for any sign of surveillance. His phone, the secure one, buzzed with a message. The Beck family had received his report.
They'd confirmed the DNA, they'd verified the crime scene photos. They believed Yoon Sarah was dead. Contract complete. Payment transferred. Minho stared at the message. It was done. He'd lied to one of the most dangerous crime families in Asia and gotten away with it. For now. He deleted the message and turned off the phone. Michael Park didn't need contact with his old life. Michael Park was a software engineer from Cape Town, married to Sarah, father to Jenny. That was all he was now. He looked at the bed where Sarah and Gina slept. Sarah had one arm curled protectively around the baby, even in sleep. Gina was making small noises, dreaming baby dreams. This was his life now. These two people. This impossible, terrifying responsibility. Minho had never been more afraid in his life. But he'd also never felt more certain that he was doing the right thing. New identities, new country, new life. The Beck family thinks Sarah is dead. Minho just became Michael Park family man. And Gina? She's got a father willing to burn his entire life down to protect her. If you're desperate to know what happens next, just wait for part 2 as we unveil the following. 6 months later in Cape Town, Michael, Minho, learning to be a normal dad. Sarah, dealing with the trauma of running. The photo that threatens everything they've built. A choice between running again or fighting back. The reckoning they can't escape. Kindly like, share, and subscribe to be updated about our new stories. Also, comment and tell us what kind of story you enjoy most.